Oh, I should manage some stages.
I can't believe you aren't already.
I switch between them. Sometimes I want the full screen with side-by-side, and so I turn off Stage Manager.
Like if you're using Google Apps?
No, just if I want like 2 apps as big as they can be next to each other, then doing split screen makes more sense than Stage Manager.
But they aren't as big as they could be because you have an 11-inch iPad.
Like as big as they could be on an 11-inch iPad.
Just saying, I think they could be bigger.
Like if you just do Stage Manager, there's space around it, which sometimes that's fine. And sometimes it's not.
It gives you room to grow.
Sure.
I don't know how you wouldn't want that.
I don't know, Daniel.
I mean, you really need that external monitor thing.
Well, eventually.
I've seen a guy at a coffee shop with an iPad, but he also has an external monitor, and it's on some kind of stand that puts it above the iPad. So it's at like eye level. And so he's got this whole apparatus in front of him that, he's sitting at a table, and he's got a screen at eye level in front of him and an iPad below that. I think that's the level you need to be on.
So he's like driving an external display with his iPad?
Uh-huh.
What I want it to unfold like a not like a book, but
like a newspaper.
Something like a trifold situation where it's like you kind of like just ring it out and you got like 3 displays.
Yep.
And then they just collapse down onto themselves into one giant stack of thick display iPad book situation.
Accordion iPad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Someday. Why not?
I think I saw a triple fold phone recently.
That sounds like something that exists.
It's like a folding phone with 3 screens.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, just add more screens. Yeah. Let's do it.
It's perfect. Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
It seems quieter than usual in my ears.
Oh, yeah?
Should bump me one.
Maybe you just need to clean your ears out.
It's the hat that I'm wearing.
Consider that. Yeah, it probably is the hat you're wearing.
It's not creating appropriate sound isolation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Daniel, tell me about the space guy.
The space guy. Yeah, this was the one you thought we were talking about last week, and you were wrong.
Right. Wrong. But
this
right.
is a Twitter account I sent you from a guy named Matthew Dominic, who is a astronaut on the space station right now, and he's also a photographer, and he takes some really cool pictures.
Probably with an icon, right?
I'm sure with an icon.
Because we talked about that forever ago, where it was something along the lines of they use Nikon cameras because they make them special ones that can handle the radiation of the space or whatever.
Yeah, there's that, and they also make them so that the file number doesn't roll over because they take so many pictures that, like normal camera firmware, they'd start duplicating file names after a while. So
Yep.
But some pretty cool photos on there. We'll put a link in the notes, but. He does like a lot of like long exposure stuff, and it seems like he's like actually really good at photography and posts a lot of things about how he takes the pictures and
like whether really cool. Or not he's going to turn them upside down so that they look normal to people, and like whether this is a long exposure and how he's shooting in all his settings and stuff.
Yeah. It's neat.
It was pretty cool, like flipping through his stuff and kind of seeing and thinking about how he's doing his photography, and kind of it's enough out of the norm for basically anybody on Earth,
including him,
that it's kind of interesting to see how he's handling taking pictures.
Yeah. It's like even people that take pictures of stars and stuff and have like those tracking mounts and all that. Like it's a totally different set of considerations with what he's doing, and most people are never going to have that chance. So,
do you think he uses one of those like suction cup things that sticks to the window so he can take pictures without getting glare?
I feel like he has to. Like there's got to be a whole apparatus that you need, kind of like that guy with his external screen on the iPad, except, with a camera in space.
Yeah. Do you think he has to like adjust his exposure to account for the like diffraction through the light or something? Do you think he like sharpens them in post?
I don't know.
Do you think he uses Lightroom?
I think you should tweet at him and ask him that.
Probably uses Lightroom Classic because he doesn't have cloud availability. Too expensive.
Ironically. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was cool.
Okay. I have a Lucas's movie corner for you.
Okay.
But this is going to take a twist.
Oh, no.
I watched the movie Twisters.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all. Mm-hmm. Not at all.
And normally whenever we do a Lucas's movie corner, we're talking about like the cameras or whatever gear that they're using.
Yeah.
And kind of some interesting stuff from the movie. So I don't know if you've seen Twisters.
I have not.
Or if anyone out there has seen it.
I'm sure somebody out there has seen it.
It's done surprisingly well in the domestic box office and horrible in the international box office. Something along the lines of like they were doing split distribution. I think like Warner Brothers super messed up the international distribution and didn't advertise it well enough or whatever. Or they don't have like tornadoes in Germany.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. It is just, it's like a slice of America that nobody else understands. Do they have tornadoes in Germany?
No. There's no way. There's no way. I seriously doubt they have tornadoes in Germany.
Do they have hurricanes in other? I know they have monsoons.
They have cyclones
in some places, but
if you have a tropical cyclonic type storm that originates in the Indian Ocean, is a cyclone.
Okay.
If it originates in the Atlantic or the East Pacific, it's a hurricane.
Interesting. Okay. And then there's monsoons in like Asia, right?
Yes, but that's like totally different.
Yeah, but it's like extreme weather.
I think that there are tornadoes in some other parts of the world, but they are very much predominantly in Tornado Alley. Yeehaw! Anywho, there was a part of the movie where one of the characters was like, "What's a tornado wrangler?"
A question I am also wondering.
And I was really mad that they didn't take the opportunity for the person responding to say, "Have you ever seen the last 10 minutes of Tall Tales when Pecos Bill rides a tornado into the sunset?" And then just like, look at him. But they didn't do that. Because if you ask me, that's what a tornado wrangler is. Someone who lassos a tornado.
Really don't know what to do with this. I'm not sure where to go from here.
Yeah, so anyways, the main character in this movie wore a camera strap and it was
like there was other clothes too, or just that?
Have you opened up this link, Daniel?
I have. Yes.
Okay, so other clothes too. But this particular camera strap that our heroine was wearing in the movie, very similar-ish to like one of those dual strap moneymakers that wedding photographers wear. Mm-hmm. It's like a leather strap, but it's built to only go on one side. And so it's this, you have like your hook piece that will clip into your camera on the camera, like at the very bottom. And then as you follow the strap up, it has a loop that goes around your shoulder. So over the front of the shoulder, around the back of the shoulder. And then there's another piece that straps across your chest. So it goes from that piece on the shoulder, around your chest, back around your back, and then connects again to that. So it kind of is this like shoulder holstery strap situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it looks pretty stinking cool. And
have you ordered one yet?
No. And so I was like, that's pretty stinking cool. Cool camera strap. And it's like she wore it the whole movie. And in situations where she didn't have her camera with her, she still had the strap on because it made her look like a baller. She looked like a tornado wrangler.
Just a permanent part of her wardrobe.
Very cool. Like the absolute opposite end of the spectrum as those khaki vests that we've talked about.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
Makes you look like Han Solo.
Yeah.
Super cool. So I was like, I need to know what this is. And what I found is that the closest thing to what they use in the movie is this product made by Rose Anvil, which they make bespoke leather, good camera products and other things. And the Lone Bandit camera harness made by Rose Anvil is this product. But they didn't want to, it seems that Twisters didn't want to like use product placement.
Yeah, they want to like sponsor it or whatever you call it.
They bought some pieces from this company, but didn't buy the whole strap system. And then they made their own version that's like worse in so many ways. And then Rose Anvil a founder of that company posted a video on YouTube that's like, I'm a small business, and this movie like totally ripped off my strap. And here's all the ways that it's different. And here's the order that they bought like the piece that connects to the camera and this other piece. And they just kind of like stole our design so they didn't have to pay us. And here's my strap, and here's why my strap is better for like all of these reasons that I super thought through. And this is kind of messed up.
That seems really bad. It's like, I mean, if it's a small company, they're going to get a lot of people searching it the way you did and finding it. I can't imagine they would have charged the movie studio that much money to just use the real thing. Like, come on.
I mean, they did add screenshots of the movie to the product listing on their website.
Well,
and added a link to the YouTube video. That's like they stole our design. So I mean, they're getting movement out of this thing. So that's at least there's that.
Yeah, that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, this thing's like $175.
Yep. I mean, just from looking at the pictures, I can smell it.
smells like America.
I'm not a big leather guy, but I can see the value of something like that, and I'm sure it's a lot more comfortable than a regular strap.
Spend more time out in the sun, you will be.
You think so?
Yep. Anyway, so this was the cool piece of camera gear, was a camera strap, and I think it's really awesome. I thought it was a little sleazy what happened as far as the movie.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Other thing that I wanted to talk about for this, movie started, and I was talking to my wife about the movie, and I paused
like during the movie.
Yeah, I paused it, and I was like,
okay, you're not in the theater at this point.
No.
Isn't that movie only in theaters right now?
Don't worry about that, Daniel.
Okay.
Don't you worry your pretty little head. We're watching this movie. It doesn't matter where, and it starts, and I was like, you know what? This is how I would reimagine this movie if it was like a B horror movie, but with twisters. And so I picture this concept for my version of this movie, and I was pretty proud because I was like, it would start like this, but all these people would die, and then it would say 5 years later, and spoiler alert, basically that exact same theme happened, and like all these people died except for her. And then it was like 5 years later. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's my movie. It was totally different after that, though. So, well, not really.
But the first part was the same.
Well, Daniel, you could have taken this whole movie, and my original plot for what I want out of my B-level horror movie of Twister is essentially this movie as like the first 20 minutes, and then there's the rest of the movie. And so what I've decided is that my movie could just be the sequel. And so I want to describe to you the plot of my Twisters movie, and then I'm going to tell you give you some ideas of what I'm going to call it.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask what the name is, but maybe we should hear the plot first.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'll throw you some name options that I've been throwing around. So obviously, there's a lot of cliche, very appropriate. Like we could go with like Twisters Requiem, like Twisters Return of the Twister, Twisters The Revenge, Twisters Twisted.
Have you thought about doing because you're going to have to pitch this to somebody if you want it to get made. I assume the budget for this movie is going to be higher than what you can personally fund. Yeah. Have you considered doing what James Cameron did when he made Aliens and just writing Twisters, except that in this case, both S's are dollar signs?
It's Twisters with two S's.
No, they're dollar signs.
Sorry,
you
perfect.
Change the S's into dollar signs.
You know what? I would have been shocked if that's not how they pitched Twisters originally. Because come on, why would you not do that? Anyway, okay. So I'm going to spoiler the entire plot of Twister. So don't skip forward because obviously you know what happens.
Yep.
All right. So you get this heroine person who's like studying tornadoes, and she's like doing her tornado studying, and she's trying to find a way to like dissipate the tornado to make the tornado go away. And
I think you just wait. Usually it just happens
naturally.
Well,
like maybe you like drive your crazy truck into the tornado and release something in to disperse the tornado.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sometimes you do that.
Okay. So I was trying to figure that out, and she gets like all of her coworkers and friends killed. And like 5 years later, right? She's coming back to it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, she made some new friends.
Eventually, the whole plot of this movie, she figures it out at the end and dissipates the tornado and now has this like way to stop tornadoes. Okay. Then next tornado season comes around, and there's a tornado that comes up, and they're like, well, this is weird. It's the same storm signature. That can't happen. There's no way for a storm signature to duplicate. It doesn't matter if that's a real thing.
It is now.
And so they're like, oh, that's so strange. And so like she goes out there to see what's going on. It's a ghost of the tornado.
When you say a ghost of the tornado, do you mean like when you're playing a racing video game and you see like, the time trial thing where it's like kind of like a ghost car and you're racing your own time? Is it like that? But with tornadoes?
That's what I'm thinking. So
okay.
The tornado comes back. The tornado that she originally killed in the first movie comes back as a ghost and is hunting her, and is like the storm starts circulating wherever she is, and it's like, oh no, the ghost tornado's coming for me, right?
Yeah, naturally.
And then she's like, what? How is this possible? Like, there's tornadoes can't be sent. They don't. How can you have a ghost tornado? And they're like, well, no one's ever killed a tornado before.
Is that the big moment of the movie?
Oh yeah, it's perfect, right? Right when the reveal, whenever they realize that it's a ghost tornado that's hunting her. It's perfect. And then eventually she just like figure it out, and like he kills a bunch of people, and I don't know if she gets away in the end. It's a horror movie, so probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Yep.
I don't know about that.
This is my concept. Ghost tornado.
That's what you write on the chalkboard when you're pitching the movie. Ghost tornado.
I'm just saying, I'm shocked that movie hasn't already been made.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
Sci-Fi is probably working on that right now.
There's plenty of ghost movies, plenty of tornado movies.
Why not both?
There's no ghost tornado movies. So this is my idea. It's going to be the sequel to Twisters.
I don't know about that.
No, it's perfect, Daniel.
Are you going to start a Kickstarter to fund it?
I mean, I'm just saying, whoever's out there is like, this is a great idea. I actually know somebody who worked on Twisters, and Twisters 2 Ghost Tornado, perfect idea. I just want to like work on it, Let me run a camera.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I've already got the plot figured out. It's perfect. I feel like we can, you could probably make it for like $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking real bad CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Like super bad.
I don't know how we recover from this, Lucas.
I need you to be more impressed at my movie ideas. Okay, so do you know Halide, the camera app, or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
They released a new version of their camera app, and they added a few different features, and one of the new features is called Process Zero. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I saw something about it. It's something like it doesn't do any of the things that we don't like about phone pictures, right?
Sure. Well,
like it doesn't do any of the post-processing.
Right. Yeah. So like taking multiple exposures, merging them together, doing all that sort of thing. They released this thing where it has like a few different options. Like you can shoot in like full mode or whatever, like full processing. You can have like a trimmed back version, or you can have zero processing where it literally just takes the data off the sensor and you just get the picture.
It's pretty cool.
And boy, you can tell like how much software like these software cameras are now.
Well, and yeah, I was going to say it sounds cool, but at the same time, I feel like there's a reason there's so much processing. And we've talked about that many times in the show about, why they would do that and, and all that. And it's the kind of thing that seems like it would be really cool, but then I wonder if in practice it's just not that usable.
I think that you said once before, and like it's not you who made it up. It's like anytime there's a trend, there's always like a counter trend at the same time. This feels like that, where going along with on the heels of like all the people who are buying point and shoot cameras from 2003 and like the cool pics whatevers, the way that the iPhone pictures look just straight off the sensor with zero processing really has that 2003 kind of grainy garbage look vibe to it. And it's like, okay, this is the look that people are wanting because like all their friends are shooting with their cool pics and they can't afford one because they're like $800 on eBay. Well, now you can get that look with your iPhone because it turns out the whole time your iPhone had a crap sensor in it too.
Yeah. Now we know. Your iPhone is basically a Coolpix from 2003.
Yeah, very similar, probably. Yep. I mean, honestly, they probably have a very similar size sensor. iPhone's on like what, like 1 over like 1.2 or something like that, or 1 over 2 point something. Yeah,
I think it's like 1 over 2.3 maybe, but I could just make that up.
No, I think that's about right because we're going to talk about the Pixel a little bit today, and that's 1 over 1.3, and it's smaller. So yeah, I mean, it's
1 over 1.3 would definitely be a larger sensor than 1 over 2.3. So
1 over 1.2.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, in any case, it's somewhere in that range, which is, obviously a lot smaller than like APS-C or something. But
I mean, it's getting close to 1 inch.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Getting pretty close.
Yeah.
And those sensors are usually like 1 inch or sub 1 inch.
I don't know if we've ever mentioned it, but Halide also has that video app now. Have you tried that one yet?
I didn't know they had a video app.
Yeah, they're a really popular phone photography app. Photos. But I think they made a video app recently, And it had some pretty cool features. We should look into that and maybe talk about it next week, because I haven't tried it, but I've been wanting to try it. And I think it could be pretty cool.
Do you think that this process zero or reduced processing is something that you'd be interested in? Like, have you ever used alternate camera apps, other like non-default camera apps on your phone?
Not really. I mean, so not really to that question. I haven't really used other stuff besides the Blackmagic video app. I mean, I've messed with Halide a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's a cool idea. I'd probably play with it some, but generally, if I'm using my phone to take pictures, it's a convenience thing, but I'm kind of accepting that they're going to be processed. And usually I'd prefer that they be, well lit and visible and all that, rather than like, this is a, true to life picture. Like, I feel like that's when I'd use my camera, my separate camera, if I want like a really good picture. So I just don't know if it'd really have much use for me, I guess.
Yeah, I guess whenever I'm shooting a photo with my phone, it really is almost always like just a quick snapshot. I'm rarely taking a picture where I'm like, now I'm taking this picture. Because usually in those situations, I'm going to use my actual camera because I have my actual camera with me most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially once you buy that, that leather strap thing, it's just always going to be right there.
Yeah, I mean, like just so close.
Yeah. Why even use your phone camera at that point?
I mean, what if I use that to hold my phone?
You could.
The strap thing on that like the camera holding component of that strap is actually really interesting. It has a like a snake bite bend to it, so that you can like slide it onto your belt or onto the edge of your pants or your pocket or whatever, so that if you don't want it just hanging, you can kind of like,
oh, that's cool,
just like slip it on,
clip it on there, but it's still secured by the strap.
And but it's also like clipped in, so he's like that, or then you can like pull it off and or you let it hang or whatever.
Nice.
It's kind of a really clever feature.
Yeah,
I think you can maybe even buy those little bits. That's how they got in trouble with the twisters.
Yep.
Twisters. Anyways, so I thought that Halide thing was cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was like, I need to get behind this process zero thing. I think my pictures need to be worse.
I feel that way a lot. That's why my pictures are so bad. It's an intentional choice.
It's a look, Daniel.
Yes.
It's called character. Okay, so the main thing I wanted to talk about today was the Pixel 9, because that got released.
Speaking of process zero.
Yeah, no kidding. So it's kind of like the theme of today's episode was really just mostly like smartphone photography and videography and that sort of thing. So I want to talk about the Pixel. I don't know if you know anything about it.
Very, very little.
Okay, cool. So it's just going to be me explaining a lot of things to you probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to get your opinion on the conclusion of this a lot about like the smartphone photography trends and where things are going, and a lot of like the whole software, whatever occasion of photos and video.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of like the most
interesting to talk
about.
most
interesting piece of this. So, as you know, I feel like I probably need to buy a new phone at some point.
Yeah, you bring that up almost as often as you bring up that Tamron lens.
It's a good lens, probably. I don't know. Maybe if they made it for my camera, maybe I would own it. Maybe. I'm just saying that my phone gets really hot and dims in the sunshine and thermal throttles a lot, but also it's like 110 degrees outside. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all get really hot and dim in the sunshine when it's this hot outside. So, I can't really blame it or anything, but
yeah, sure. Okay. I'll allow that.
All right.
Anyways, every Pixel phone I've ever owned broke. I was talking to somebody recently because I was like, maybe I give Pixel another shot. And they're like, yeah, I was doing this thing, and then like I tried to make a phone call and I couldn't, and like I really needed my phone, so I'd like restart my phone, and then the signal worked after that, and so like that totally worked. But I'm having this like weird problem with my radios. The person has a Pixel 8.
Of course.
I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
So just every Pixel phone has a hardware failure. Okay, perfect. So just gonna keep that in mind. Anyways.
But you still kind of want a Pixel, like even after all that. Like you're on the fence about what to get.
Oh, for sure. I've decided that I'm gonna wait till Black Friday. That's my plan. And then all the phones will be out except for the new Samsungs, and I'll know what I want to do.
There you go.
Yep. And like Google's gonna fire sale this thing, like everything, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, we didn't sell enough in the first 2 months. Let's cut the price in half.
Yeah, it's probably already been canceled.
You know what? That's a really good point. Probably already been canceled. Anyways, okay. So they have obviously 3 lenses on the Pixel Pro. And one of them is they have a wide, the ultra wide, and the telephoto. And like the main wide lens is a 50 megapixel f1. They're listing as 1.68, but obviously that's 1.7 because you just round up.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's an f1.7 and it's got an 82-degree field of view. It's similar-ish to last year's sensor, but it's not exactly the same. If the field of view, so it's like a 1/1.3 sensor, that field of view equates to like the full frame equivalent of about 22 millimeters, 22 millimeters, something like that.
That seems pretty reasonable for the standard size lens, I feel like.
I thought that was interesting. It feels like the main camera on smartphones is getting wider and wider. And I can't tell if it's an Apple thing or if it's everyone's following Apple thing or if it's like a market trend.
Well, I mean, on the iPhone, I think it's 24.
Right. It was 28 or 26 previously.
Yeah.
And it's slowly been getting wider.
Yeah.
I think that the current 15s is the widest iteration of that main lens at 24 millimeter. And now the Pixel comes out and it's even wider.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just people are getting used to the way smartphone photos look. And I mean, I feel like the wide angle type shots are more common on phones than they are on, bigger cameras maybe. I don't know though.
I mean, you have the ultra wide and you have the telephoto. Most of these are shipping with 3 cameras on them. I guess the way that the iPhone is doing it with that 48 megapixel and the cropping, they added that like 3.
Yeah, which I really like that feature personally.
What do you have yours set to?
I have it set to 24, but I pretty frequently will use 2x.
Okay.
Which is more, that's not any of those presets, but I normally keep it on the 24.
But you could have it like default to, what was it, 24, 35, or
28. 28's the middle one.
28 or 35.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I leave it on 24 because I want as many pixels as I can get, and I would rather crop it in post if I want to crop it.
But isn't it not necessarily doing that? Isn't it taking a 48 megapixel photo and then down resing it to a 12 megapixel photo at that zoom level?
Yeah, I think if you can shoot in RAW, which I'm not doing, and get the full 48.
Right, which would basically just be the 24 megapixel. 24.
And I'm pretty sure that on the main camera, I think it's 24, not 48. Or sorry, 24, not 12.
That's right. They did bump the quality up to 24 megapixels. But even still, is it not the case of like you get a 24 megapixel photo?
No, I think it is doing that. But I know in my heart that it's cropping in when it does those other modes.
But it's not cropping in. It's just digitally photographing.
Yeah. I don't know. I have mine in 24.
I mean, it's like getting even more downsampling. Maybe.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know what I would set it to. I mean, we had that whole conversation about what is like the natural field of view.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's what you set your lens to. Like that's just.
I mean, sure, but I don't know. I wonder if I think that 24-ish, 28 is fine for like phone photography. It's what I'm like everyone's used to at this point. It would be pretty wild if all of a sudden they shipped with like a 40 millimeter equivalent lens.
That would be a big change. I will say I almost never use the ultra wide because it's gotten a lot better. The first phone with the ultra wide, like that sensor was horrible, and it's gotten better, but it's still like it's just not as good of a sensor or lens as the main camera. And so I almost never use the ultra wide.
Do you think the telephoto requires more glass and more length? I mean, telephotos in general are just longer lenses, like physically longer. Do you think that it's a matter of as those sensors are becoming larger and whatever, that you can't really get a small enough like main camera on that sensor size in like 35 actual millimeter, not actual, but like full frame equivalent?
Yeah, that's a good point. Cause I know like the telephoto lens on the iPhone Pro, it's like a 5X telephoto. They had to do this crazy, like, what do they call like a periscope lens, where they've got all these like mirrors and stuff in there. So
super slick.
Maybe it's something to do with that, but I don't know. I feel like generally people just want, wider camera, like, taking, I mean, I guess with selfies, you'd mostly use the front camera, but I don't know. I mean, I have to imagine it's not just a technology thing, but maybe it is.
Okay, so the Pixel 9 Pro also has that periscope zoom because Android had it first.
Of course.
They're selling it as, it's 10 megapixels, but they're selling it out as a 5X zoom, as they do with all of these things. And I'm wondering if that's the other strategy, because people are wanting these like long telephotos now on their phone cameras. And if you come to them and say, here's a 20 millimeter equivalent main camera, I'm going to give you a 10x zoom or a 5x zoom. That's only 100 millimeters.
Yeah.
Versus if it was at 28, that's like 150. I'm just saying, they're saving themselves on the long lens by using marketing. It's all clever. Anyway, so then that's the case here, right? You're about 22-20 on the wide. You're about 100 millimeter on the telephoto, and then the ultra wide is the equivalent of like 9 millimeters.
Yeah,
it's like super, super wide. It's like aggressively wide. It's 123 degree field of view.
Jeez.
Which is about one eyeball.
Wow.
So if you're looking for the most natural field of view for the Pixel 9, it's going to be the ultra wide.
Yeah.
As previously determined in a former podcast.
I mean, all around, those lenses are pretty similar to what the current iPhones have.
Yeah, very similar. It's and they are doing the whole thing where like they're oversampling down to a smaller final megapixel unless you shoot in some sort of raw format.
Yeah,
which Google just really doesn't want you to do. They want you to use all of their processing.
Oh yeah, you got to use all that AI, man.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, like video features, always a big thing. So it can do 4K up to 60. It can do 8K 30, but only if you use Video Boost. Do you know what Video Boost is, Daniel?
Please tell me what Video Boost
is. We're gonna come back to that because that's a whole thing.
Okay.
It is doing, and I think the iPhone has been doing this for a little while too. Yeah, it does. They're doing the dual exposure thing where they're going to take two images every time for every frame of a video.
Yeah,
and then they're going to
which you can
them.
do as long as you can. As long as your sensor can read out twice as fast as what you're actually filming at.
Right. Yeah. Sense. Yeah. So you can do 4K 60 and I think I don't know if the 60 does dual exposure. I'm just going to assume that it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 20x super zoom in video. It can do slow mo up to 240 frames per second. There still isn't any obvious way to lock your exposure, like lock your exposure and your white balance whenever you're shooting video, unless you use the Blackmagic camera app.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of annoying. I feel like maybe it'd be more common on Android to use third-party camera apps, but it still probably has the same problem that you would have on iPhones, where you lose out on a lot of the good processing stuff if you're using anything other than the default app, right? So
that's been true, but more so for Android for a long time. Really? I remember until it was like for the first 5 or 6 years, like especially whenever iPhone started getting good at video, it was like the camera API. They came out with like a Camera 2 API because the camera API would just give you like just straight off the sensor, and you couldn't get the processing.
Process 0.
Yeah, exactly. And so people will like you, and I think it's still kind of the common thing that if you're using like Snapchat or Instagram, you were just going to have a better experience on the iPhone because they were pulling, like they have like APIs to like do the thing versus like taking a screenshot of the preview of the video feed off of the camera.
I see.
And so it's just kind of always been in third-party apps for Android a little garbage for video, but I think a lot of that's been made better by improved APIs.
Yeah, but still kind of makes it more of a bummer that they don't support some of those features in video.
The video features for the iPhone, like they've gone in like two totally different directions. So let me finish like kind of talking about some of that video stuff, and then maybe we can talk about like iPhone versus Pixel or Android.
Oh yeah, nobody's done a podcast about that before.
On specifically the video stuff, because that's kind of where I get stuck, and that I would rather run an Android phone, but I really like the idea of having my phone available for video. And realistically though, like in the time of owning my phone, I think I've taken video off of my phone to use in an actual project where I was editing it in Resolve 4 times. It's not a lot.
No, it's not.
And it's always annoying because it's like mega saturated and you have to like transform. It's just terrible.
So many complaints.
That's why I need Apple Log, Daniel.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the Pixel stuff first.
So just for the video stuff, they're doing this like night sight video thing. So, like a lot of phones do this now. Like they have night sight or whatever, where they give you this like way over processed crazy night video thing.
Yeah.
And so they're bringing night sight to video. It still looks terrible. You watch all the marketing material on phone night video where they're like, look how good it is at night. And it looks like compressed and just garbagey, and there's like bad lens flaring. There is no phone that shoots good video at night.
I mean, I kind of feel the same way about the night photos that you get, where you take it, and the most impressive thing about it usually is that you can actually see things.
Yeah.
And it feels to me more like the type of situation where Like there's something happening and I just want to take a picture of it, and I know it's not going to be good, but like I just need to capture this for some reason. And it's like I'd rather have that available than not have it, but I'm never going to, at least not with the current technology, I'm not going to ever feel like I can use that in a project, or like it's going to stack up to, anything I do with a real camera, like a properly lit scene and all that.
Yeah. It's like at least you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of like sometimes they take that too far, where it's like at least you can see it, but now they're bringing up things that you didn't want to see. You wanted to be casting.
I do feel that way sometimes. And I honestly, a complaint I have on Apple stuff sometimes too is that they don't really make it easy in the UI to turn down how much of that you get. And like, I would almost rather, like kind of how you can set exposure compensation, I would rather have like a default where I could say, I want you to use about half as much of the night stuff as you do. And maybe sometimes I want to turn it up, but like normal, like I would rather the default be a lot less than it is.
May I interest you in Halide?
Does Halide do that?
They have an between process 0 and normal.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that would give me what I wanted.
Okay, so they added the night video boost, or the night video stuff. They added an astrophotography time lapse function, which is kind of cool. The astrophoto stuff on the Pixel is pretty good. Like it's pretty good. They added cinematic pan video stabilization.
Oh yeah,
and
now you're talking.
Fused video stabilization, like whatever. The main, like the big thing that they've been pushing is this video boost feature, and that's where like you shoot your video, and then you upload like the camera raw information from the video to Google servers, and it processes it, and then you download the video back down.
Now, this sounds a little familiar. Did they previously announce this? Was it for photos before and now it's for video, or did they have this for video?
They announced previously? It for video last year.
Okay.
It took forever to come out.
Okay.
And now it's improved and another feature on the 9 that they're really pushing.
Okay.
And so
that's why it sounds a little familiar.
Right. So like 50 megapixels, you can shoot 8K at that resolution. You don't get 8K unless you upload your video for them to upres it on their servers.
A little suspicious.
Yeah, but I mean, like you're still sending all the data, and looking at the video on the phone versus the video boost, where they are like doing all that extra processing. If it's daylight, it's like kind of a wash. Maybe one's like smidge more saturated. It doesn't really matter. But if you have any sort of like low light or really long zoom type thing, the sharpness and the resolution and the clarity and the noise are way better whenever Google runs all that processing on their server. They just don't have strong enough or fast enough chips to do it locally.
Yeah. I mean, that's always going to be the case. I think we talked about this exact thing last year. Like it's always going to be true that you can do more with a server offsite, and you can do more if you have more time, if you're not trying to do it instantly. But there's some pretty big trade-offs with that. Like, for one thing, you're dependent on them continuing to run those servers and continuing to offer that feature and not charge you for that feature.
Yep. So we'll talk about the photo stuff in a second, but with a lot of that the video type thing, it seems like Google's approach here is what they say, we know what you want, which is a really slick, oversaturated phone video.
Of course, yes.
And we know that you don't want to go in and like do your own color grading or record in any sort of like raw or log format, and we're just going to like do it for you, and you tell us what you want. And like it even goes into all the AI features, like add a hat to this turtle in this photo. Okay, here you go. You didn't have to open up Photoshop or whatever. And it's like they are trying to cut out the middle so that people who aren't in like the photo video like workflow world can go from captured it on my phone to have a final product without having to open up like DaVinci Resolve or Photoshop or whatever.
Well, I can see the appeal to that for sure.
Yeah. And then, well, there's like no middle of it. And then there's the Apple version, which is, well, this is a pro phone, and so we're making tools for pros. And so here's log and ProRes video and raw photos. I think you can do raw photos on Android, but it just feels like, especially for the video stuff, that Apple isn't necessarily leveraging like all this like cloud processing, whatever stuff. Instead, they're saying like, here's the best file that we can give you, and we're letting you do whatever you're going to do with it. And I feel like those are very opposite approaches to the same final solution, which is a cool video that you want to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. They've taken such opposite views toward what people want. And I don't know if I'd say that it's the same final result. I mean, maybe it is, depending on how you want to edit your videos, but like in terms of like you using the phone and what you're doing, I mean, you get a pretty different result, because it's like when you take it off the phone on the iPhone, you're getting, maybe like a log video that you can put into your editing software. Whereas on the Pixel, you're getting, like a finished product that may just not look as good as the iPhone one could with a lot of editing.
I still feel like on that, like on which side of the coin I fall there, I still fall on the Apple side of like, give me video that I can work with and not do it for me. And I feel like Google's making the right choice as far as the market that they serve.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do people really want like log or raw off of their Android phone? I've been surprised that like Samsung hasn't jumped in and said, oh, now we're doing it too. It feels like they kind of just know that that's a niche market, and so they're not necessarily servicing it. And I find it interesting that one, that Apple's doing it and no one's following behind, but it's frustrating for me because I would like to be able to do more with like the video files off of my phone.
I mean, bottom line is, I feel like it'd be best for all of us if you could get both of those on one phone. Like give me a switch. Give me a built-in Process Zero switch where I can decide whether I want the phone to do it all for me or not. Because sometimes I am sometimes I'm taking a video of my dog doing something outside, and I know I'm not gonna pull that into Resolve and do color grading and edit it and stuff. Like it's just a cute video, and I maybe want to send it to some friends or something. And in that case, sure, if there's something that, the phone can do it for me, or, maybe I can send it to a server and wait 15 minutes and have it look way better. Like, sure, sounds great. No problems with that. But, if I'm having to make that choice at purchase time, that makes it a lot harder. And I'd probably fall on the same side as you of like, I like the idea that my phone can be a filmmaking tool if I need it to be. Like I can set it up as an extra angle for a shoot and probably use the footage. I think that's awesome. And if I'm having to pick when I buy, I'm probably going to lean in that direction, but I wish I didn't have to make that choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting how the way that, especially Google, particularly with their Pixel phones, it's more and more a let us do this for you, leaning on the processing and it being a software thing rather than being like a hardware thing. And I don't know, it's like maybe the images and stuff that you get off of these cameras it's just not good. Mm-hmm. And they don't know how to necessarily make it good in a way that's then like they can give you an unfinished product to finish.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, credit where credit's due. I think they've done really well with the software. And if if you're not judging it the way one of us would judge it, as a, raw, film that you're going to edit, I feel like the pictures and video that you get from Pixel phones is generally pretty competitive with anybody else in the market. And so I think they've done really well, with kind of focusing maybe even more on the software than on the hardware. But, I mean, it's just kind of a different set of results than what you get with something like an iPhone.
For sure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the actual photo camera part of this. So I think they said AI maybe 1 billion times.
That sounds about right.
During that event.
It is 2024.
It felt like Gemini and all the AI features were the primary thing they were announcing.
Mm-hmm.
They announced features and showed Samsung phones before they showed the Pixel.
Interesting.
Like for the first 20 minutes.
Huh.
Before they even announced their hardware. Because they don't care, it seems, about their hardware. It's more about the software.
It's like the hardware is just a vehicle by which to get their software into people's hands.
Yeah, like exactly. They did all of their AI demos live. And
I heard about that.
Awkward.
Yeah, they have to do one of them like 3 times or something.
Yep. Yeah. That was the one that I watched. I was like, oh boy. Oh, he's like, one more time. Maybe it'll work. And I'm like,
that's AI.
Yeah, it sure is. Anyways. So I'm tired of people talking about this one, but they did this Add Me feature thing Are you familiar with this?
I mean, I could guess by the name, but not really.
Yeah, like it's exactly what you think. You take a picture and then you take a second picture and it merges the two so that you can have all the people in one picture. Or you can put yourself in a lot of weird spots. That can be fun too.
I could see that being fun.
Yeah. So I think that's fine.
Sure.
I think there's been a lot of controversy about like, well, that moment never actually happened. Is that okay? Yeah. And I don't know if I care.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that people should be using them for journalism.
Oh, for certainly
I don't
not.
know how many people are going to be using a Pixel 9 for journalism anyway. So.
I don't think they would get the what is that accreditation camera, whatever thing like modified that Adobe put out.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but
yeah. It's not going to have that authentication for sure. Anyways, it seems like they're improving their super res zoom, which I had on my Pixel 4 and the one before that, and that was actually fairly decent. And I think that you can push the super res thing to their cloud to like make it even better. I don't know if that's true.
AI upscaling for stuff like that has gotten really good, so that's not too surprising.
And they're definitely using AI. So it's a 10x zoom the 5x zoom on the telephoto, but you can push that to 30, and it's surprisingly good. Right. They'll do like a high res mode, so you can take a 50 megapixel photo, which like, okay, cool,
yep.
full resolution. It's got like macro focus. They're still advertising the face unblur thing, which that's just witchcraft.
What does that mean?
If you take a picture and somebody like moved a little bit and they're slightly blurry, it will unblur their face.
Oh, huh. That's pretty cool.
I don't know how. Is it actually their face anymore? Who knows?
Nobody knows.
They're just making it up.
Yep.
There's procedurally generate, not procedural.
No, Google's just downloading it from their database of all the information they have on everybody and just
they went through your photo library and they have every different version of that person's face, and so they can just digitally recreate it using AI.
Exactly. The scary thing is you can't prove that that's not what's happening.
You definitely can't.
Okay,
when Samsung replaced the moon.
The AI that they're using in these phones has been trained on input data, right? Like it's able to do these things because they've trained it on data, and they've said like, here is a blurred face and here is a similar unblurred face. Well, where do you think they get that training data from? Because you sure don't have to pay for any of these Google services to upload all your pictures to them. Just saying.
It's going to be somebody else's face next time. That's going to be terrifying. Who is this person? That's not me. All right. They updated once again their panorama feature, which feels like it's changed a few different times, but I don't know. This actually seems similar. Have you ever done like a spherical picture with a Pixel phone?
No.
Or an Android phone?
I haven't done anything with a Pixel phone, Lucas.
That's true. So like you can take panorams that are more than just like...
Is that what they're called? Panorams?
I don't know, man. I'm not like an expert or whatever. Like, you know how on the iPhone it's stupid and you have to kind of like move it and like line up the line and don't tilt the phone and whatever. Yeah. On the Pixel, it's like you take the picture and then it shows you a dot kind of like off over here. You just kind of have to move the camera, line it up on the dot, and then it takes another picture. And you just kind of like do that, and it stitches it together, and it's pretty good.
That's cool.
I've been a fan of that feature, unless I wanted to do some like weird pano stuff, like
having your dog appear 3 times.
Or stuff like that. Or you can you do the rotating of it, so it makes like a. Anyways, that's fun. Anywho. We talked about Night Sight. Oh, like they announced the Pixel 9 XL Pro, Pixel 9 Pro Fold. There we go.
Yeah, the $1,800 phone.
It's so expensive, Daniel. But the reason you'd buy it is because you can fold. When you fold it out, you can take a picture of a baby, but you make it show cartoons on the outside screen so that it smiles and looks at the phone.
It's kind of clever, honestly. Like you had a bullet point in this thing that says that baby picture taking thing with the fold. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but it's going to be dumb. Honestly, it's a pretty smart idea.
I mean, I like if you could do that, but show like goats or tigers, my dog would be super into it.
I was thinking that too. Or like, if you're trying to take a picture of a cat, if you could show like a little laser pointer dot.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be perfect.
Yeah, it's great. I would actually use that mode for pictures of anybody.
Yes.
Every time. Just because it would look like perplexed.
Yep.
It's perfect.
Yes. I like it. It's a cool idea.
Okay, so those are kind of all the big like AI features, and it kind of feeds into just basically like what we've been talking about thus far is like these phones, especially like the Google phones, are more and more and more software where it's like it captures the light and the information. Like here's 7 exposures of this thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to make up a picture. Do you remember that like whatever concept camera where it took a picture, but then it would like use AI to generate the image from the information?
Yeah, it's like it wasn't actually taking the data off the sensor and, you know, turning that into an image. It was doing like a ChatGPT prompt or something to make an image based on what it saw.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like that's where we're steamrolling to on these Pixel phones. It does
feel that way.
Where it's like, just give me the idea of what you're looking for, and we'll make the most perfect version of that using like AI generation and like large language models.
It's like I said about that, you know, I was sort of making a joke about the training thing, but yeah, it's like how close are we to just saying, well, like, you know, you've taken, you know, 20,000 photos and I've got your whole photo library and I can identify all those people in that picture. Like, let me just pull like all their professional, you know, headshots that you took and I'll make that your group photo from the Christmas party.
It's just, it doesn't feel unreal to imagine a situation where like, I don't know, you're standing in front of a mountain or you're at Niagara Falls or whatever, and you take a picture and it goes, okay, like I know where you are. I know all these things are in the picture. I know that's a waterfall. I know that's a bridge. I know this person. I'm not going to like just regurgitate that image to you. I'm going to generate a new image where everything in that is perfect and the noise is 0, and it'll just...
And it's like there's nobody else standing in the background. There's no clouds obscuring the, you know, the waterfall. Like,
sure. Yeah. I mean, they can make it like close enough or whatever, but I don't know, Daniel. I mean, they could even like let's remake everything as is in the photo, but going to generate it instead of like just show the image. It feels like that is very much in the possibility, and I don't love it.
Well, and here's the other part, like, you know, that I agree with you. I think that could happen. And then you have to ask, like, well, is that what people want or not? And it kind of makes me think about how, you know, there's a pretty big problem where like what people post on the internet, on Instagram or whatever, is not, you know, really a reflection of their reality.
Sure.
I mean, that's been known for a long time, right? And this kind of just feels like a extension of that, which makes me think that there are a lot of people who just like that would be a plus to them rather than a minus. Be like this camera makes me look better, makes my life look better, and they don't see a downside to that.
Well, like what I'm imagining and thinking of is, say like you take a picture and it has to demosaic that Bayer or X-Trans sensor. It's going to be Bayer because it's in a phone. It has to like demosaic and has to decide like what color is what, and it's going to have some given resolution for every pixel. But if instead of just regurgitating that, if you then generated it, it doesn't matter the resolution of the sensor, because you could say this is now a 100 megapixel photo and I made up every pixel. I made up every pixel, but there won't be moire because I've decided that this is red or whatever. All the way through like the whole band and like how the shades of all the different colors. And like you could imagine a world where it's not making anything up. It's actually showing you everything that you took a picture of, but it is not using the hardware output. It is instead generating the entire image.
Yeah.
And that sounds wild to me. And it sounds like you could then create like some really impressive quote unquote photos
for sure
with really inferior hardware.
Yeah.
But it feels dishonest almost. And like, and a little icky, even though the technology, if you could do that, would be really cool.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people have probably been saying some of those things for a long time. I'm sure there are plenty of people who feel like film photography is more real, more authentic.
It's so real, man.
Than digital. And this is a more extreme version of that, but it kind of feels that way to me too a little bit, where this is just the march of technology. And I think it's going to happen whether we want it to or not, because some people want it to happen and it's a direction we can go in. And I think that, ultimately, like, more stuff will be that way. And those of us that want, a real image will, slowly be left behind. I hope not. But, and I mean, we probably shouldn't be totally pessimistic about it. I mean, it may not go totally to the extreme of this entire thing is generated, but I do think the lines are going to get blurrier and blurrier.
Oh, for sure.
Unlike the focus in those generated pictures, that's going to be tack sharp.
So sharp. It's because it doesn't matter. They just made it up. And it's all just super, super interesting. And like, I am curious to see where it goes. I've always liked the photos out of the Pixel phones that I've had. And I would say like this is still on the table for me. But I still don't quite know. Like, there was a rumor that the new iPhones may have a shutter button. One where you like actually half press or whatever.
Oh man. That'd be pretty cool.
That's tempting.
Yeah.
A shutter button and log.
Mm-hmm.
I can deal with iOS for that.
Yep.
So that's my plan. Is I'm going to wait till Black Friday.
So why
still not buy a phone?
Why do you have to wait till Black Friday? Because the Pixel was just announced, and we know the iPhone will be announced in September.
Because I'm going to get myself a sweet discount. I'll buy a iPhone and get free USB-C AirPods or something. I don't know.
I hope they give out a free Apple TV, because that would be fun.
Oh my gosh, stupid. I don't know. Maybe it's like if you buy it from Best Buy, you get a case,
sure,
or something.
Maybe so.
I'm just saying, if I'm not in a hurry, my phone's only like 3.5 years old.
Yeah, you made a pretty good run.
It's doing fine.
I mean, if it had been a Pixel, it would have been dead 2 years ago.
Oh my, no, I would have gone through 3 of them already. Yes, for sure. I never had like hardware problems with my Samsung, but I haven't had a Samsung since like the Galaxy S3.
Yeah.
So
well,
I don't know.
You want to talk about generating images? I mean, Samsung's king of that. That thing with the moon. Just remember that moon incident.
Yep, I can't forget about that. Anyways, one more question on this. So you can get 10-bit video off of this Pixel. You can get 10-bit video off of your iPhone. But anytime you shoot 10-bit, it's HDR.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that there's just not room for 10-bit non-HDR video in phones?
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, every time I think about 10-bit, I think back to the GH5, where because that camera gives you a lot of capability to pick exactly what codec you want and exactly what bitrate. I mean, you felt like you had more flexibility than you do on some other stuff. And I remember being blown away at how much better the 10-bit looked on that, even in a non-log profile. Like, even just shooting standard video, 10-bit looked like a photo, whereas, in video, it's like you can kind of tell that it's video instead of photo. And that kind of makes me think that there is a place for it, because, I mean, HDR is okay sometimes, but a lot of times I don't really like taking video in HDR. But if I could just get better quality video that has more colors, I'm all for that. So I kind of feel like there's a place for it.
It feels like we're still, in a way, because of the web, stuck in a 8-bit sRGB world. And even though a lot of phones and cameras and displays can do like DCI-P3 and they can handle 10-bit color, you just don't get it through the web.
Yeah.
And because that's like the main means of distribution for photos and video for a lot of people, it's like ultimately this is just going to be 8-bit anyway, so why bother?
That's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's frustrating though, because I would like to live in a 10-bit world.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Maybe.
I think that's a good point, though. I mean, when we run into that a lot with the videos we make, where, like, for example, we might be inclined to shoot in 24 frames per second instead of 30, but we can't, because a lot of our stuff gets posted on Instagram, and it's always going to be 30. So.
There's so much like ingrained in like the industry of how things were, and like just changing it would be so monumental. It's like it's all going to be 29.97 8-bit sRGB, and it feels like we're just doomed to have that forever.
Yeah that's not a very uplifting thought, but I think you're right.
Doomed.
That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us, and if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter at CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.